Academic researchers in cognitive psychology and behavioral genetics maintain a deep skepticism toward manifestation culture. Its claims of quantum mysticism lack empirical evidence, suggesting reality can be rearranged through thought alone. Yet a paradox exists within high-performance environments. Elite athletes and military operators reliably use visualization methodologies to shift their real-world outcome probabilities, achieving measurable gains in accuracy and resilience. The flaw in the popular model is its isolation of the mental layers. It treats wishing as an independent engine of change, bypassing the biological and environmental requirements that actually dictate success. fMRI data reveals why this rehearsal matters. Comparing brain activity during a physical action to intense visualization shows nearly identical neural regions wiring. Manifestation is a measurable psychogenetic and socio-cognitive art, an executive method for behavioral engineering that uses consciousness as a tool to shape external results. Stripping away the mysticism requires rebuilding the concept of manifestation from fundamental first principles. This process involves four escalating biological layers: the genetic baseline, epigenetic, neuroplasticity, cognitive filtering, and social resonance. This progression tracks how an internal intention travels through the nervous system, physicalizing as environmental change. Reality shaping functions as an active biological feedback loop. It is the disciplined alignment of perception and behavior toward a specific predicted outcome. The starting line for is dictated by DNA. Approximately 25 to 36% of our baseline optimism and pessimism is heritable, meaning our initial capacity to believe in a goal is constrained by genetic architecture. A primary bottleneck is the serotonin transporter gene, 5-HTT-LPR. This polymorphism determines how the brain filters environmental stimuli before they ever reach conscious awareness. The short allele creates a biological bias toward threat detection. For these individuals, recognizing an opportunity requires overwriting a naturally encoded negativity bias, a process that demands significantly more cognitive effort than it does for those with the long allele. A second bottleneck exists in the COMT gene, which regulates the degradation of dopamine in the prefrontal cortex, the neurochemical engine of goal-directed behavior. Met allele carriers experience slower dopamine breakdown, sustaining the neurochemical drive required to maintain focus on a long-term goal. This genetic advantage makes it easier to act as if an outcome is guaranteed, even in the face of setbacks. These variants dictate the initial biological friction of focusing on a goal. They represent a starting predisposition, but through the mechanism of neuroplasticity, they remain malleable. While passive wishing triggers a premature sense of reward that lowers motivation, active mental rehearsal involves visualizing the friction, the specific steps and obstacles one must overcome to reach a goal. This intense visualization triggers a specific chemical cascade. High-frequency electrical pulses force calcium ions into the postsynaptic neuron, activating signaling pathways that reach into the cell nucleus to trigger the CREB transcription factor. CREB initiates the transcription of brain-derived neurotrophic or BDNF. Once synthesized, BDNF binds to receptors on the cell membrane, physically sprouting new dendritic spines to expand the neural network. This structural build, long-term potentiation, turns a temporary thought into a permanent, highly efficient neural highway. Sustained BDNF signaling eventually loops back to the DNA. It activates demethylase enzymes that strip locking markers of the genes associated with resilience and executive function. By stripping these epigenetic silencers, the brain lowers the metabolic cost of maintaining a focused, optimistic state. What began as a difficult conscious effort becomes a biologically encoded default, an altered baseline trait. This remodeled brain relies on the reticular activating system at the brainstem. The RAS acts as a gatekeeper, filtering millions of bits of environmental data and highlighting only what it deems relevant. Defining a hyper-specific target programs the RAS to prioritize goal-related information. You immediately begin to notice resources, connections, and environmental cues that were previously filtered out as background noise. This programming is most effective when using the WOOP method: wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. By linking an internal obstacle to a specific if-then action plan, the practitioner shifts the statistical probability of a successful response. Linking internal obstacles to implementation intentions transforms manifestation from an emotional placebo into a functional tool for navigating reality. The social layer of manifestation is frequently mislabeled as a mystical attraction of energy. In reality, it relies on the biological mechanisms of social influence. The Pygmalion effect demonstrates that an individual's high expectations unconsciously alter their behavior, which in turn drives higher performance in the people around them. This effect is broadcast through 4 factors: socio-emotional climate, input difficulty, wait time for responses, and differentiated feedback. When a practitioner holds high expectations, they signal competence to the group, and the group adjusts its behavior to match that expectation. Mirror neurons facilitate this synchronization by regulating their own autonomic nervous system, slowing their breathing, and relaxing their posture. A practitioner prompts the brains of others to de-escalate and match that calm state. A practitioner biologically primes the group's nervous systems and behavioral cues to ensure collaboration, effectively engineering the social environment. This framework links these mechanisms into a continuous loop. Intention triggers attention bias, planning, epigenetic shifts, and social feedback. So we replace mystical claims with empirical reality. Thoughts becoming reality is attentional bias. Raising vibration is autonomic regulation. Attracting outcomes is gene-environment correlation. Active gene-environment correlation, or RGE, is the process where genetically influenced traits drive individuals to systematically evoke, select, and construct their own environment. Consciousness does not bend the laws of physics. It is the executive system that selects which genes are expressed, which social loops are triggered, and which version of reality is constructed.